Nice talking to you, sir.
Well, he turned to the black greasy fireman and said, just shovel on a little more coal. And when we cross that wide open mountain, you can watch old 97 roll. And there's a 3-mile grade. It was on that grade that he lost his air brakes. You can see what a jump that he made. He wasn't going down the grade doing 90 miles an hour when the
Age of steam locomotives, popular songs were made commemorating railroad disasters. Had any of the composers been witness to a real train wreck, perhaps they might have chosen something else to write about. Tijuana Railroad had one of the finest safety records in the country. On June 15, 1925, in Rockport, New Jersey, it mattered little, because no one can control the weather. Number 1104 was eastbound from Washington toward Hackettstown. Rockport is located in an area they call the Rockport Sag. It's a downhill grade, and the engineers always hit it at a good rate of speed to have enough momentum to carry them up the far side of the hill. Just before the train came through, a heavy thunder and lightning storm had washed out Hazen Road.
Well, they had scraped that the day before, scraped the road, and the dirt was loose, and so much water come down from the rain that washed it down on the tracks.
The train was probably doing 70 miles an hour. The locomotive hit that obstruction at about 3 o'clock in the morning. The engine derailed, but continued upright for several hundred feet and then flipped on its side. The next 2 cars jumped the track. The first one smashed into the engine. The second one flipped over on top of the engine.
Well, the steam came up through the cars and just, I hate to use the term, but almost cooked these poor people.
Just hear them hollering, crying you can hear them all the way from the railroad up here.
And people were crying and screaming and terrified, which is certainly understandable.
We're inside and out. That was what hurt so.
In 1925, none of us had electricity out there, or telephones, or anything like that. And it was a case of carrying kerosene lanterns down to look in these coaches to see, what could be done to help these people.
I found a little girl who was in the spring down there right along the river. Her head had been cut off. That little blonde-haired girl. I found her. I helped get the engineer out of the engine, too. 2 or 3 tried it, but he was tore up so bad. I volunteered, and I got down the hole, and I put it in the basket. Cochran Funeral Parlor.
There was a porter on one coach, a man named Oscar Daniels. He had been with the passengers since Chicago. He knew the people well, and they knew him. After the wreck, to shut off the steam, he tried to close the windows on the coach that was on top of the engine. but in doing so, he was severely scalded. In spite of that, he got out of the coach and had enough presence of mind to seek help. He went with all his terrible burns a half a mile across the fields to the game farm office, but when he got there, the phone was out of order. The storm had knocked out the one telephone in Rockport. He came back, and when he reached the wreck site, collapsed and died. The wrecked train car was rebuilt and named the Daniels, an honor unheard of in the history of the Pullman Company.
Every single locomotive is different. Keeps it interesting. A challenge. Hard as it is, that means it's time to go. It takes 2 men to run the locomotive. The engineer's job is to get us down the road, while I have to keep plenty of water in the boiler and enough coal in the firebox, so he's got enough steam to do it. That may sound simple, but it gets a little tricky. Sometimes I'm so busy shoveling coal, I don't sit down on the seat box the entire trip. If I'm not shoveling, I'm watching my gauges. This one is the water glass. It's the single most important piece of equipment on the entire locomotive. It tells me the water level in the boiler. My number one priority is to make sure there's always water in the boiler. The water's constantly turning to steam and being exhausted out the smokestack, so the water level's constantly dropping. We run out of water, and the boiler blasts itself a quarter mile up the track. This is the steam pressure gauge. If it falls too low, your engine won't run. Then you find yourself stuck out in the middle of nowhere. This is the firebox. It's hungry all the time. And what it eats is coal. And lots of it. If I see black smoke out the stack and not white, well, I'm wasting fuel. To keep the fire burning evenly, I have to shovel the coal in a U-shaped pattern, not too thick, and I can't forget the corners. Remember what I said? A little tricky? Doing this job, there's not much time for sightseeing. When the steam pressure comes down, it can be back-breaking work. This engine burns 2 tons of coal an hour, and I shovel every scoopful. That's 2 tons when the grade is level. Uphill, it gets a little more interesting. You've got to watch your water level. A good fireman, when he's going uphill, knows that all the water's run to the back of the boiler, and he's reading a false water level. When you go over the top, the water goes down. But if there's not enough water, and one end of the boiler gets exposed, either the flues or the crown sheet, well, I'd rather not think about it. Steam engines are just like engineers. Each one has its own personality. On 1053, the air pump likes to stall. One good whack on the governor always gets it running. And she doesn't like to run at 40 miles an hour. She runs fine at 35 miles an hour. She runs good at 45. At 40, she hops all over the place like a bucking bronco. Every single locomotive is different. Keeps it interesting. A challenge. Hard as it is, it's the greatest job in the world.
This record has faded into distant memory. A railroad's lasting legacy becomes what it built. Track, tunnels, stations, viaducts. These are the enduring monuments which stand the test of time. In the Hall of Fame of Railroad Architecture and Engineering, the Delaware, Lackawanna, and Western occupies a position of honor. The railroad that William Haynes Truesdale inherited in 1899 was old and out of date, but in just 15 years, he would completely reconstruct the line. Before he took over the DL&W, railroads had usually followed the natural lay of the land, not Truesdale. Truesdale knew that if he could run heavier trains from Buffalo to Hoboken faster, the railroad would make more money. He and his engineers wanted the straightest, flattest possible routes for their trains. Totally confident in himself and his workers, he embarked on a massive construction project to shorten travel time dramatically by building the New Jersey and Pennsylvania cutoffs. Bridges had first been built of stone, then wood, then iron, and later steel. Truesdale and his engineers went one better, pioneering the use of steel-reinforced concrete. They leapt across the landscape, straight as an arrow. If a mountain was in their way, they blasted through it. If they came to a valley, they threw a viaduct over it. The DL&W reduced the grade, eliminated curves, built viaducts, anything to speed the trains along. The cutoffs cost more than $1 billion in today's dollars. The DL&W paid cash. Truesdale's railroad earned its money back in little more than 10 years.
It is perhaps the DL&W station that most typify the company's relentless drive to please their customers with architecture that was the most functional and beautiful of its day. Designed by leading architects, no two stations were alike. The DL&W took pride in building them larger and of higher quality than their competitors. The Scranton station was the Lackawanna Railroad's showplace. Though today it is a luxury hotel, where handcrafted tile murals, elaborate light fixtures, and cathedral-quality marble are original. To the DL&W, what we might regard as extravagance was simply good business. Gone now are the puffing engines, the dandy dancers, and steam whistles in the night. Yet behind tree-covered hills and sleepy townships lie the fruit of the railroaders' labors. Suddenly, beside a roadway, we see what appears to be a rocky block. Actually, the Peak West Fill, longest man-made embankment ever to support a steam locomotive. And across a valley, upon a river, springs the world's largest reinforced concrete viaduct. It is hard to conceive of these massive structures being completed before the advent of computers and high-tech software. With slight rules, hard labor, and tremendous risk, the workers of the DL&W achieved lasting fame. What was true in their lifetime is evident in these monuments. But their motto was a part of everything they did. From the ballast to the stations, to the on-time service, the Lackawanna, mile for mile, the most highly developed railroad in America.
Oh. Can I get a ticket to Buffalo, please? Ticket? Huh. Oh, give me a ticket. I'm putting you on the news. Oh. Chicago Limited. The number 5 train. Just want my ticket.
Train will be here soon, everybody. Sorry it's so cold. Leaving Tobyhanna for Gouldsboro, Moscow, Scranton, and points west in 6 minutes.